What if the ultimate proof that you have free will isn't, your ability to write a symphony or build a skyscraper or invent some crazy new technology?
Right.
What if the absolute undeniable proof of your free will is simply the fact that you feel anxious right now?
It completely flips the script on how we view negative emotions, doesn't it? I mean, instead of seeing anxiety as this psychological failing, you start to view it as the exhaust fumes of your own autonomy.
Yeah, the exhaust fumes. And that profound shift in perspective is exactly what we're exploring today. So welcome to today's deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Our mission today for you listening is to really unpack this fascinating philosophical text from 2015.
Hmm?
It's by an author named Sofeng, and it's titled How to Apply Free Will. And if you're looking for an aha moment that just completely changes how you view your own daily frustrations, this is absolutely the deep dive for you.
Oh, without a doubt.
Because it takes these massive, overarching spiritual concepts and then grounds them in incredibly mundane, everyday experiences. The core premise we're looking at is that we are all essentially playing characters in a grand cosmic script.
Right, like actors on a stage.
Exactly. The universe has a plan.
Yeah.
Our destiny is largely predetermined. But how we act out those roles,
The specific flavor we bring to it.
yeah, the flavor,
Yeah.
the choices we bring to the stage, that is where our free will comes in.
And what makes this text so compelling is that it really doesn't waste time debating whether free will exists. It just assumes we have it.
Which is refreshing, honestly.
Very much so. It focuses entirely on the psychological and spiritual consequences of wielding it. We're looking at the intense friction between what a human being wants in a specific moment and what the universe's ultimate plan dictates.
So let's jump right into the deep end because the text makes a massive assertion right out of the gate. Sufeng argues that human beings absolutely have free will, and his primary evidence is, well, it's our pain.
Yes, our suffering.
The annoyance you feel in traffic, the sorrow of a breakup, the fear of the future. According to this text, those aren't just natural human reactions. They are the direct result of your free will violently clashing with the universal script, which the text refers to as the Tao, or the Way.
The mechanics of this are quite elegant when you actually break them down.
Mhm.
The Tao represents a state of perfect, frictionless flow.
Okay.
It's the natural progression of the universe. But humans have this unique cognitive ability to step outside of that flow.
Right.
So whenever we use our minds to actively weigh the pros and cons of a situation, or whenever we scheme for a better outcome, or deliberately try to engineer our own luck and avoid disaster.
We're messing with the script.
Exactly. We're actively asserting our ego over the Tao.
I'm trying to visualize this. It's almost like it's like your life is a route programmed into a GPS navigation system.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Right, so the GPS, which is the Tao, has calculated the perfect traffic-free route to your destination. But your free will is your ego sitting in the driver's seat saying, no, I know a shortcut through downtown.
Even though downtown is always a mess.
Always. And every time you veer off the prescribed route, the GPS has to frantically recalculate. And that spinning, recalculating wheel, that tension you feel, that is human anxiety.
That is a very apt way to look at it. But I would add that it's more than just a recalculating wheel. It's really the engine of the car starting to overheat.
Wow.
Yeah, the resistance you create by fighting the prescribed path, it registers in your consciousness as actual suffering. The text suggests that human beings are fundamentally incapable of perfectly merging with the Tao, precisely because we insist on gripping that steering wheel so tightly.
We just won't let go.
No, we won't. And the moments in your life where you feel the most out of sync with the world around you, those are the exact spots where you've prioritized your own narrow desires over the broader predetermined plot.
Wait, so if exerting our free will is what causes all this friction,
Right.
if it's the reason the engine is overheating and we're feeling so much sorrow and fear, why do we keep doing it? I mean, the logical conclusion would be to just let go of the wheel and coast, wouldn't it?
Well, we keep doing it because it is the fundamental mechanism of our humanity.
Mhm.
And this is where Sefeng bridges the cosmic with the incredibly ordinary. He doesn't just talk about free will in the context of, grand moral choices.
Right, he gets super specific.
He points to the local shopping mall.
I love this example in the text because it's so relatable. You walk into a massive department store and you are immediately confronted with this dazzling array of goods.
Just aisles and aisles of stuff.
Yeah, you're standing in the shoe aisle, staring at 50 different pairs of sneakers. You're checking the price tags, evaluating the colors, wondering what your friends will think of the brand.
Weighing all those variables.
Right. And that agonizing process of trying to decide which one fits your specific style and budget, That isn't just a chore. That is you actively engaging your free will.
It's the architecture of preference. The author also uses the example of television blind date shows, which perfectly encapsulates this.
Oh yeah, those shows are basically just free will on display.
Exactly. You watch a row of contestants evaluate a potential partner. They're analyzing physical appearance, personality traits, financial stability. They are trying to calculate the absolute optimal match for their personal happiness.
It's a calculation.
It is. This constant evaluating, rejecting, and selecting, that is how free will manifests in our mundane reality.
But the author draws a really stark contrast here. He argues that without this exhausting mechanism of preference and selection, a human being would essentially be reduced to a biological robot.
And that is the crux of his argument regarding our nature. A biological robot in this framework, it would possess no internal drive for optimization.
It wouldn't care.
Right. It would simply execute the most immediate, practical action without any emotional attachment or preference whatsoever. If it needed shoes, it would take the first pair it saw that fit its feet.
It wouldn't care about the color or the brand or the arch support.
Not at all.
So for you listening, think about the last time you were totally paralyzed by choice overload. Like maybe you spent 45 minutes scrolling through a streaming service trying to pick a movie,
Yeah.
only to give up and just go to sleep.
We've all been there.
According to this text, that frustration isn't some modern glitch. That is the raw, unadulterated engine of your humanity firing on all cylinders. It's absolute proof that you are not a machine. You pause, you desire, and you evaluate.
We constantly seek the best possible outcome for ourselves. We want to maximize pleasure and minimize pain.
Naturally.
However, because our perspective is so limited, our calculations are almost always flawed. And that brings us right back to the central problem.
Which is?
The very mechanism that proves we are human, our desire to choose the best option, is the exact same mechanism that generates our internal conflict and suffering.
Wow. Which sets up a really fascinating collision. Because if choosing sneakers proves we aren't robots, it also exposes this deep vulnerability. And the text argues that this vulnerability reaches its absolute breaking point when we start looking at how personal desires interact with strict spiritual or communal rules.
This is where it gets heavy.
It does. Schweffing brings up a very specific scenario involving a community he refers to as genuine, which translates to home, or a type of communal paradise.
This is a vital case study in the text because it moves the stakes from trivial consumer choices to profound human connections. Within this genuine community model, there's a guide.
Like a leader.
Yes, a spiritual leader or a set of established doctrines. And one of the core tenets of this community is that exclusive one-on-one romantic relationships are forbidden.
I really want to unpack the mechanism of that rule because it sounds incredibly harsh to a modern listener.
It goes against a lot of our cultural norms.
Yeah, exactly. Why would a spiritual community forbid two people from falling in love and being exclusive?
Well, in the context of this philosophy, an exclusive romantic attachment is the ultimate manifestation of the self. It is one ego anchoring itself entirely to another ego. When you create that tiny exclusive bubble, you isolate yourself from the broader community, and more importantly, from the unifying flow of the Tao. Your loyalty and your energy are redirected from the grand cosmic script toward this one specific individual desire.
Okay, so imagine a member of this community. They deeply believe in the genuine path. They want to follow the guide,
Right.
but they're human, and they develop this intense natural desire for an exclusive relationship with another member.
It's biology.
Right? They are completely torn. The text describes this agonizing inner rebellion. They secretly believe the guide is wrong, or at least wrong for them in this specific moment, but they don't want to openly rebel and leave the community. They are trapped in this liminal space between obedience and desire.
And the resulting confusion and pain is immense. The suffering this person experiences isn't necessarily caused by the absence of the romantic relationship itself.
Oh, that's an interesting distinction.
Yeah, the suffering is generated entirely by the friction between their free will, their individual desire, and the established script of the community they chose to inhabit. It's the ego violently resisting the environment.
I have to push back a little here because this scenario is incredibly intense.
It is.
It feels like a literal tug of war between basic human biology, our need to pair bond, and absolute obedience to a doctrine. If having these deeply ingrained personal preferences causes this much agony, does the text suggest the ultimate goal is to just completely erase our identity?
It's a radical concept, for sure, and the author leans heavily on a fundamental Buddhist concept to explain it. It's the idea of no self, or in Chinese, wu-wo.
Okay, wu-wo.
Yeah.
How does that function in this context?
So in traditional Buddhism, wu-wo is the realization that the ego, the self that we so fiercely protect, is actually an illusion. There is no permanent, unchanging core to our identity. Xue Feng adopts this idea and applies it directly to free will. He argues that a true Buddha, a genuinely enlightened being, has absolutely no free will in the way a normal human understands it.
Wait, so if you are enlightened, you lose your free will.
Yeah.
That sounds like a downgrade.
It sounds like a downgrade only if you view free will as the ultimate prize. But remember, the text has established that free will is the engine of suffering.
Right, the overheating engine.
Exactly. To be a Buddha means you have shed the illusion of the self. If there is no self, there are no individual desires to conflict with the universal script. Therefore, a Buddha does not need to choose, because they are already in perfect harmony with the Tao.
Wow.
They are disqualified from having free will because they have literally nothing to rebel against.
So it isn't that they are biological robots being forced to act against their will. It's that their will has entirely merged with the play itself.
That's the perfect way to phrase it.
They step onto the stage, and whether the script tells them to play the hero, the villain, or just the guy sweeping the floor in the background, they do it with total joy. They've recognized that it's all just a role.
Precisely. The joy comes from the perfect alignment. The suffering ends the exact moment the resistance ends. You are no longer trying to rewrite the play. You are simply delivering your lines flawlessly.
That sounds incredibly peaceful.
It does, but as we all know, letting go of the ego is arguably the hardest thing a human being can do.
Which brings us to what happens when we refuse. What happens when the ego doubles down? The text calls this attachment, or zizo. And Xue Feng frames attachment as the most toxic, extreme manifestation of free will possible.
It's basically the ego on steroids.
Yeah, it's the ego demanding to assert its presence by actively and stubbornly opposing the natural flow of reality.
He paints a very vivid, almost frustrating picture of this behavior. Attachment is the person who is told to go east, and they stubbornly insist on going west just to prove they can.
Just to be contrarian.
Exactly. When the environment demands rest, they insist on frantic work. When the situation requires stillness, they agitate and move. It is contrarianism taken to a cosmic, destructive level.
We all know someone like this. It's the person who complains that it's raining, but absolutely refuses to open an umbrella because they didn't want it to rain today. And opening the umbrella would be admitting defeat to the weather.
That is a brilliant example of attachment.
And the author points out that you can look anywhere to see how this story ends. Look at history, look at your own social circles, even look at the tragic characters in TV dramas. The text argues that stubborn, deeply attached people always, without fail, end up with hard lives and disastrous endings.
Because they are spending all of their life force generating friction. They are treating every interaction with the universe as a battle of wills.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
It really is. So to counter this destructive attachment, Xue Feng introduces a concept rooted in ancient philosophy called embracing the one. He quotes the sages saying, "Embrace the one to be the model of the world."
Let's break down what embracing the one actually looks like in practice, because this is where the text gets highly prescriptive about authority.
Right. In this framework, embracing the one means actively aligning your will with the highest power or authority in whatever sphere you happen to exist in. The goal is to eliminate friction and avoid disaster.
Okay.
On a massive cosmic scale, that means aligning your life with God, the universe, or the Tao. But Xue Feng takes this a step further and maps it directly onto secular, worldly hierarchies.
And we should be very clear here for the listener. We are strictly reporting on the author's philosophical framework. We aren't endorsing this or taking a political stance, just laying out his logic.
Absolutely. We are just exploring how he connects spiritual flow to earthly power structures. So he argues that on a national scale, embracing the one means aligning with the head of state or the government. And within a specific group, it means submitting to the highest authority figure present.
It's a highly controversial stance for a modern audience, especially since we're so used to championing rebellion and individuality. But the text's logic is that fighting against these established hierarchies, whether they are cosmic, governmental, or communal, is fundamentally pointless. Xue Feng describes fighting against these highest authorities as an egg hitting a rock.
Because it is a pure energy equation from his viewpoint. From his perspective, those hierarchies, for better or worse, are part of the established script of reality at this moment in time.
Right, they are the rock.
Exactly. Therefore, using your free will to smash your ego against that rock is the ultimate expression of toxic attachment. It will not break the rock. It will only break the egg.
So, returning to our analogies, the text is essentially saying that friction isn't just a lofty spiritual problem. It's a brutal practical reality.
Very practical.
You don't fight the ocean currents. Like, if you are caught in a riptide, swimming directly against it will drown you. You have to swim parallel. You have to ride the current until it releases you.
That's exactly it. To embrace the one is to recognize the overwhelming force of the current and stop exhausting yourself. It's a philosophy of minimizing self-generated chaos so that you can actually survive the journey.
But wait, if we follow this logic all the way down, it raises a massive, glaring contradiction.
I was wondering when we'd get to this.
Right. If free will is this inherently dangerous thing, if it's the source of our anxiety, our pain, our disastrous endings, and if the ultimate spiritual goal is to completely obey the cosmic script and become like a Buddha with no self-reign.
Why do we have it?
Exactly. Why did God or the universe or the Tao give us free will in the first place? Why install a steering wheel if touching it causes a car crash?
It's the ultimate paradox of the entire text. And to his credit, Xuefeng addresses it head-on. He doesn't say free will is a mistake.
He doesn't.
No. The text explicitly states God gave us free will, so we must use it. To not use it, to try and suppress it artificially, would be wrong. The ability to choose is a divine gift. The critical, life-altering question isn't whether we use it, but how we use it.
Let's explore that how, because the author is very clear about our limitations. He argues that the universe's script is infinitely too complex for our mortal eyes.
We have this incredibly tiny, narrow perspective.
Yeah, we only see our immediate surroundings, our current emotions, our short little lifespans.
Right, whereas the scale of the cosmic script spans millennia. It incorporates intricate details, laws of physics, and spiritual domino effects that a human brain simply cannot process. We are essentially extras in Scene 4 of a 10,000-act play, and we don't have access to the script for Scene 5.
The text uses a fantastic idiom here to describe this limitation. It says that relying on our own tiny individual wisdom to find the ultimate truth is like climbing a tree to catch a fish.
I love that phrase.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
You're using fundamentally the wrong tool for the job. You can climb as high as you want, you can spend all your energy, but you are never going to find a fish up there.
No, you're not.
And trying to use our own flawed free will to invent a clever shortcut to heaven or enlightenment. The author calls that a fool's dream.
Because if we try to rewrite the plot based only on the scene we are currently standing in, driven by our immediate attachments and desires, we ruin the entire production and cause ourselves immense suffering.
I am struggling to reconcile this, though. Our perspective is too small to make the right choices. Using our free will to figure things out on our own is a fool's dream. So, are we supposed to use this divine gift of free will to just hand the gift back?
It feels like a catch-22.
Yeah. Are we supposed to choose not to choose?
You have hit the exact synthesis that unlocks the entire philosophy. The only correct way to use free will, according to Xuefeng, is to make the profound, conscious choice to follow the divine path. We must use our ultimate freedom to actively listen to and obey the teachings of the sages, the Buddhas, the guides who have actually seen the larger script.
Wow. That is heavy. It takes everything we assume about freedom and turns it completely inside out.
It really does. It elevates surrender. It says that true surrender is not a forced submission where you're just beaten down by the universe.
Right.
It is a conscious, voluntary, and joyous yielding of the ego. You look at the vastness of the universe. You look honestly at your own limited understanding. You realize you are in a tree looking for a fish, and you use your free will to say, I choose to trust the script over my own desires.
It's not about having the power to do whatever you want. It's about having the incredible, enlightened freedom to choose not to do whatever you want in service of a much larger, harmonious reality.
Exactly. You use your free will to align with the Tao, and in doing so, the friction disappears. The anxiety vanishes. The biological robot is transcended not by indulging the ego, but by willingly dissolving it into the whole.
That is just phenomenal. Let's take a breath and recap the incredible journey we've just been on with this text, because we've covered a massive amount of philosophical ground.
We certainly have.
We started by reframing our daily anxieties, not as mental flaws, but as actual physical proof of our free will fighting the universe's script.
Right, the exhaust fumes, and we examine how our humanity is defined by our ability to choose, whether that's picking sneakers or a romantic partner, but how that very mechanism of preference separates us from the flow of the Tao.
Then we looked at the agonizing dilemma of the Chanyuan community, where personal desire violently clashes with communal doctrine. And we explored how the Buddhist concept of wu-wo, or no self, offers an escape hatch from that pain by essentially eliminating the ego that wants to rebel.
Then we navigated the very challenging reality of embracing the One. The idea that fighting the established currents of reality, whether they are spiritual laws or societal hierarchies, is just an egg stubbornly smashing itself against a rock.
All of which brought us to this beautifully complex realization that in this text, true freedom doesn't mean writing your own story. True freedom means using your ultimate power of choice to joyfully and willingly accept the script you've been handed. It completely changes the weight of the decisions we make every day.
It forces a total reevaluation of what it means to be a free individual.
It really does. Which leaves us with a fascinating implication to consider for you listening as we wrap up today.
I'm curious to hear this.
Well, if the highest expression of free will is choosing to surrender it to a grand cosmic script, does that mean the ultimate purpose of having choices is simply to learn how to stop making them?
Oh, wow.
And if so, what does that mean for how you approach your very next difficult decision today? Are you agonizing over the script, or are you just refusing to read your lines?
That is the exact question this text demands we ask ourselves.
It's a thought that is definitely going to stick with me. Thank you all so much for joining us on today's deep dive. Keep questioning the script, keep exploring, and we will catch you next time.